Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. The famous question always in every meeting nowadays. And welcome to the Women in Tech breakfast date with us here at Tietoevry, where the focus will be on cloud and how it is affecting the way we all work nowadays. Firstly, before we move on into the agenda and to our today's topic and to our colleague Sanna, I want to wish all of you a happy International Women's Day. May it be fulfilled with inspiration and lots of learning. My name is Helidona Dehari and I will be moderating this session and your possible questions and answers and comments together with my colleague Emilia.
Hello, welcome also on my behalf. My name is Emilia Helgren and I also want to wish you all a very good Women's Day.
Okay, so here we can see that the agenda, and this is a 1-hour session lasting until 9 o'clock, where our colleague Sanna Beilinson will then be focusing on today's topic. And just shortly about Sanna, she works as a head of cloud business development, and she will shortly kick off the topic of the day, the domino effect of cloud. After which we will have from 5 to 10 minutes for questions and answers. And the last couple of minutes will be dedicated to sharing your key takeaways through Mentimeter. Before we move on to Sanna, we just 2 words about Women in Tech and our collaboration. We are very happy to still continue our collaboration and partnership after so many years, and must say that this breakfast dates have turned to be the most popular events and sessions so far, which have been full of inspiration, and that is the whole idea of the network and the partnerships that we as companies have. In addition, wanted to share with you that since this breakfast date is taking place virtually now on the third time in a row, we have been donating your breakfasts to different places, and this time we donated your breakfast to UNICEF for the children of Ukraine. Unfortunately, this matter is present with us at work and everywhere, and it is something that we cannot avoid, and it continues to be, the exceptional times continue to kind of go on, and we can only hope for it to end as soon as possible. And just support in many ways we can. There are many ways we can support, but however, we can only see that it has emphasized the humanity within us more than ever, and we cannot remember times like this when the countries, peoples, and even companies have come together on a mutual matter and taken a clear stand and shown their support. And we as a company as well have done that, and in case you want to learn more about it, please just visit our website. Okay, without losing any time on this, you can also see the hashtags you can use during today. And I just hope that we can take this session takes a bit our mind out of the current situation going on in Europe, and we can get inspired by today's topic. So now we are ready to move on and get some insights and new learnings on cloud with Sanna. So Sanna, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Helidona, and good morning from myself as well to everyone. So as said, the topic today is cloud and how it's affecting all of us, and how it's sort of been evolving in the past years that I've been working with around the topic. So my name is Sanna Beilinson. I'm the head of cloud business development at Tietoevry. And first, I wanted to share a little bit about myself and my background and career, so to say. I think there was in the marketing, there was also my blog published that gave a little bit of an idea where I come from and where I am currently. So I have a master's in management and international business. I've also studied marketing and accounting and a lot of things. I'm currently living in Espoo with my husband. And as from the picture you can see, I love outdoors. Here is the picture is from Norway, from a camping trip. And I think mainly I love learning new things and working with different kind of people. And I think that's been one of the main things that have sort of driven me forward in my career. And if someone would have asked me even 10 years ago, or told me that I was going to be working in the IT industry, I probably would have not believed them. But here I am. So my background starts from, I actually started as from the restaurant industry. So I was a restaurant manager for a while, and then moved into management consulting, project management, and so forth. And in 2007, I joined, well, it was Tieto at the time still, and completely new in the IT industry at the time. And very quickly progressed to project management also here, and then became the delivery lead for public cloud. Last year, I went for a short visit in Cybercom, very interesting position, but very quickly I started missing Tietoevry and my awesome colleagues here. So again, last August 2021, I joined Tieto again, and now I'm basically developing new services, looking at the market, what's there to come, especially in the cloud area. All right, so that's about me. So maybe my background explains a little bit about the topic that I'm talking about. So my focus heavily is in listen to our customers, listen to what they need, what their journey has been in cloud, and also looking at the market where it's going. And that's the perspective that I wanted to also take on today for the domino effect of cloud. So I'll be looking at it from sort of how we have progressed, where has the market been, how has the industry or the area affect employment markets, and where are we now heading. And please, you can write your questions already in the comment section. We'll go through them after this, but you can already write them there, and then we'll take them afterwards. So basically, what I'm saying, maybe 4 years ago, when I started working around cloud, we were seeing sort of two different approaches when companies were adopting cloud. So there was a strong business approach, which meant sort of innovation-based, new applications, agility sort of approach. And then there was a little bit more traditional IT approach, which then again was more sort of technology oriented. There was a lot of migrations, modernizations, and companies were looking for operational stability, increased security, and especially cost optimization. And what we saw at the time was that it had a huge effect in the employment market. So companies were looking for new capabilities, both vendors and customer side. And customers were also looking, or companies were also looking cloud strategy. But at that point, there was very little focus on operational changes or anything to do with cloud affecting the way we actually work in our daily lives. And what then happened in sort of this approach is that we mainly looked at cloud as an infrastructure. So if you, for example, now Google what is public cloud, it's pretty much very technical terms. It's about computing services and infrastructure that are provided for customers by a third party. So again, not much about operational aspects. And I strongly believe that this was one of the reasons where we saw a lot of companies looking for this innovation and freedom. So giving freedom for developers to innovate and do what they do best and try and be efficient and looking for this proactive development. But what we then ended up with was more fragmentation, loss of control, too many tools, no control over the cause that was being used in cloud, because it is easy to use. And also when you have this sort of modern world clashing with a very traditional sense of or way of operating IT, we saw a lot of companies struggling with traditional reactive operations. So if you think about what sort of basic traditional operations are based on, it's reactiveness. And what I mean with the fragmentation and loss of control is basically what ended up coming from the freedom that was given for developers, given for companies to do this innovation. And what this meant at the employment market again is that more and more people were being again hired. Employment market was going quite crazy. It was enough that you had basically cloud mentioned in your LinkedIn and you were pretty sure that you were getting a lot of contact, being contacted by many companies. But the problem was that this world where we saw cloud as an infrastructure was looking for these individual heroes. So what we ended up looking for is people that sort of know everything. And of course, that created a lot of problems for employers. So if you think about the sort of the reality of trying to control, trying to know everything, it creates an enormous cognitive load to employees. So we lived in this world where employees started to become unhappy. We had this demand that people couldn't answer to, which then led us to the situation where we started looking at cloud as code. So I sort of call this, and we're still here in maturity of companies that I talk with. We're sort of still at this level, but I call this the time of buzzwords. So we have these really cool words that we all understand most likely differently, and we throw around to sort of get this hype around everything can be automated in cloud. Cloud provides the opportunity for no ops. No one needs to touch the machines, Spotify models, and all of these sort of things where we pursue to sort of leave out as much as human work as possible. That was sort of the mentality. So let's automate as much as possible so that we are efficient and that we remove human errors. We remove manual work. And that's still a lot of the conversation that's ongoing. But what is actually what we can see happening in the market is that this ideology first took us to thinking standardization. So again, traditional operational model clashes with modern way of working. In the traditional world, operations are based on standardization, scalability. But what we then started seeing in cloud, when we have all these hype words and automation and everything done as code, is that we started seeing that it's actually more leaning towards customization, which then again meant heroes. People very, very tightly connected to understand the customer, the needs, the code, everything that was done. So then we lived in a world, or partly still living, where we want to automate everything, but still continuously hire new people. Still, the employment market was going crazy, or is still going crazy, looking for the perfect people that know everything. And what then started happening is that we started going back to control. So we saw companies struggling with the freedom that was given to developers, other users in cloud. And we started taking a step back. And we started looking at, okay, code, good thing, automation, awesome. Good, now we have good people, but we're still struggling. We're still not getting what we expected cloud to provide for us. So then the big question comes, and this is what we're seeing now with many companies. How do we ensure innovation, but without sort of giving up the control? And so basically now we're in a situation where we have started, and this is, I know this is not new for everyone. If you go to sort of the software development world, this is sort of old news, but for a lot of companies, when you look at traditional companies that are still divided into heavily business-oriented level and then traditional IT level, this is a big change in the mentality when you start looking at cloud as an operational model. And what we see happening now is companies understanding that in order to take all the advantages from cloud, you actually have to start thinking about organizational changes. You have to start thinking about operational changes, the way you work. And for me, if we think about, and this for 3-4 years that I've been working with public cloud, it's a very short time, and a lot has already happened during this time. And when we look at the sort of cycle going through this ideology that, you know, let's give the freedom for people to choose the tools they use, and they will make wonderful things, and then going to, well, maybe if we just adjust the processes and do more automation, maybe that will then fix the next problem. And the funny thing is that where we're actually ending up in is that it's about people. So it's actually about the way we work, the way we organize ourselves. What is our company culture? And most importantly, how do we communicate together? So here is a quote from Conway's Law, if you're not familiar with it. a very complex sentence. So organizations who design systems are constrained to produce designs which are copies of the communication structure of these organizations. So basically what it means is that an organization's output is directly related to how it communicates internally. And this is what we're seeing the latest trend. So in order to be efficient, you need to break silos. You need to diminish silos. You need to work in teams, cross-functional teams, people that have different capabilities, people that come from different backgrounds, building communities. And it's about transparency and it's about openness. And if you go and look at any latest documentation on DevOps or cloud operational model, I can tell you that it's a lot about people now. So we have this platform that enables us to do incredible things. I know that we don't even know half of it, of what is come and what public cloud or cloud can enable in our lives. But what we finally have sort of realized is that if we want to use cloud, we need to also look at the people aspect of it. So, how does cloud affect the way we all work? Currently, for the past years, it's already affected our employment market. Now it's starting to affect more and more the roles that we have in our companies. It's affecting the way companies outsource services. So we are already seeing a lot of different demand or requests in different kind of contracts, in taking different kind of responsibility that vendors traditionally have taken. And we're seeing the change also in the community that is talking about public cloud, who's working within public cloud. So it's very important that we understand that the fundamental nature of cloud is a lot more to do with just an infrastructure decision or selection of tools. And we currently, if we look at what's happening in the world, and this was sort of when I was thinking about the contents of today, I couldn't be, it was impossible not to be affected by what's going on in Ukraine, what Helidona was also talking about in the beginning. And so I really started to think more and more about this sort of people aspect of cloud. And we live in a world that has this increasing uncertainty, where the need for data mobility is increasing. So in case of natural disasters, in case of war, we have to ensure that our businesses are safe and the data can be moved. But this same now affects to people as well. So companies need to ensure the mobility of people. Through pandemic, we're mostly working remotely. A lot of people have moved to different countries. A lot of colleagues have moved to Lapland here in Finland, working all the way from there. So we need, as companies, we need to ensure that we organize ourselves in a way that supports the mobility of people as well. And we live in a world where the speed of change has increased and is continuously increasing. And cloud is what can answer that continuous change. So it gives us a platform for continuous development, innovation, but in the end, it all does come down to people. Cloud is an enabler. It gives us accessibility to resources that we previously we didn't have. But cloud itself doesn't bring the change. And I think this is what we've been mainly seeing in the market for the past 4 years is companies looking for different ways, looking to be efficient. And now we're mainly seeing that the change requires for us to change as well. So ultimately, we need to understand the additional implications that change brings to us, to leadership. We need to understand the change. We have to understand that change always brings insecurity to people. So it gives more demand on leadership. And suddenly, when we look at an industry where I know that there was a lot of talk about cloud taking people's jobs, automations, making a lot of roles not necessary. So there was a lot of fear also involved when public cloud became more and more popular. And what's interesting is that after all these talk about replacing people, we're actually seeing that we're moving towards more sort of softer values where it comes down to people and connection. And I believe that the new buzzwords are actually psychological safety, trust, and empathy. Thank you. So now, questions. I did very quickly the first slide, so we're ahead of time, but please, if you have any questions, if you just write in the chat.
Yeah, it can be anything related to the either topic or Sanna's career or anything that comes to your mind.
It's hard, we can't see even if someone is writing, so should we take the key takeaways at this point? Donna.
Yeah, let's just wait for one more minute if we get a question.
There is one now. All right, so
yes.
What inspires you in your work and why you did choose cloud? Good question. Well, what inspires me, I think it's quite obvious that it's people. But I guess it's also, for me, cloud is something that you will never know everything about. So actually the constant change is something that continuously inspires me because I know that you're never sort of ready. There's always something new to do, something new to learn. And I think, as I mentioned, it's an enabler. So there's so many things you can sort of how you understand it, how you utilize it. So it's I think it's just this source of endless opportunities. Does customers want help with leadership or only solution? How to affect to the customer culture? This is an interesting one. Tietoevry, we of course we are traditionally an IT company, but what we have seen as growing extent or increasing extent is that more and more customers are coming to us asking leadership questions, asking us to support or drive their change towards more sort of cloud native culture, so to say. And we have agile coaches. We have different, of course, offerings to support this, but I've seen a sort of a change in the way customers communicate with us and what they're asking from us. And one of these changes is that they are looking for more direction, more vision, more support in their changes. And I think it comes from trust. So we are very lucky to have customer relationships that we've had for ages. So we have that trust with them. And you cannot affect a customer's culture without having that trust. So I think we've had some really special opportunities because of that. For me, cloud is a completely new topic. Working at an IT company, I got inspired, but many times scared about not knowing enough or not even knowing the basics of the big things such as cloud. How did you go about learning everything needed in our industry? Asking questions. When I started at Tieto, I had Google open constantly, so half the things that people were talking about I didn't know. So I was Googling a lot, I was reading a lot, learning a lot, and I was asking questions. I think you should never go into any situation thinking that you would have stupid questions. There is no stupid question. So I think if you're, if you have the opportunity, go and talk to people who know about cloud or know about the things that interest you, and just ask questions. That was sort of my approach. But I think also the way I got the most involved with public cloud was I was sort of from my own selection thrown in the deep end, hands-on project management, a very challenging project. It was the sort of one of the first bigger migrations that we were doing at Tietoevry, and just asking a lot of people who knew more than me, and just trying to learn and trying to support the project. That was the best and the fastest way to learn. So just be brave and get your hands dirty and just start doing things. I think the sort of the beauty in cloud is that no one knows everything. It's very hard to meet anyone who could claim that. So I think it has something to offer to many people. So I think that's the beauty of it as well. I hope I answered your question, because that was a good one. What should one learn, study if one wants to become a cloud expert? I think there are different paths to take. So you can take the technical path. There are, of course, are massive amounts of trainings and certificates that you can take. But then there are the sort of the softer values as well. So working agile, DevOps, how do those sort of work? What is the cultural aspect? So I think cloud also gives us these sort of softer things that we should learn. So I think it's about sort of understanding where your strengths are. What is it that you sort of get inspired the most, and then taking that path, because there is a lot of different things you can do. And I think the great thing now is that we're more and more sort of going towards a situation where, of course, we have a lot of cooperation with Microsoft, with AWS, with Google, but there is a lot of cloud agnostic trainings as well. So you don't necessarily need to select the cloud to learn more about what cloud is about. And I can say that a very good book to read if you're looking at sort of the way of operating is Team Topologies. Very much recommend that one. How has cloud affected your own way of working? Well, of course, it's provided me with a very good opportunities, very exciting new things in my life. But I think it's also about myself sort of changing with when change comes. So it requires constant learning. It requires constant communication and sort of having the mindset. I think that was the biggest change. It's inspiring. It's sometimes a lot of work, but it's as I mentioned, there is so many opportunities with cloud. There is a lot of really interesting topics around it. So it's sort of, I guess it's forced me into this continuous learning path. What is your next thing you want to learn in your work or career? I think, and this is something that I've for the 4.5 years, 5 years that I've been in this industry, I've always said that, you know, I want to become more technical. I actually I don't consider myself that technical, even though nowadays I can have a good conversation about the technical aspects as well. But I think that's always been the sort of the side that I want to learn more of. What specifically? I don't know yet. It seems that in my work, I always, when I start feeling that now I need to learn again something new, something comes up. So there is always a natural path of new things coming and new things that I need to learn. But I think the latest, I can say that the last fall, since coming back to Tietoevry, I've been very much focusing on these sort of team topologies, the new way of working in cloud. And I think we're, at least in the Finland market, or let's say Nordic market, we're still quite, there's a lot for us to learn, what works and what doesn't. What has been the highlight or turning point in your career so far? Well, probably the biggest one was taking the jump into IT industry and applying to Tietoevry nowadays. So I think that was that turned out to be a very good decision. But also, I think the biggest thing was when I got the project for the Azure migrations. So I was a project manager there, It was a challenging project. I was new at Tietoevry, so I've only had been here for about a year at that point, and I was given the opportunity to take the lead. And it was probably the most learning experience that I've had since we didn't have models that much yet. So there was a lot of new things. We were working with Microsoft very closely, and the amount of learning that I did during that time was quite massive. And I've also been lucky enough to be able to utilize that knowledge then later in my career. But it's always, I think the highlights always come from these successful interactions. So when you have a really sort of, when you're able to have this really great teamwork, and you know you have the success with the people that you work with or the customer that you work with. I think those are the best, the sort of the most motivational, inspirational situations. Read the blog about your fast career progression. Any tips for how to move from junior roles to getting more responsibility? Yeah, ask questions. Very important. No stupid questions. And I can tell you that most people like to tell about the stuff that they do. Be brave enough to speak out. I think that's a big one. We often see, especially younger professionals, they think that their opinions necessarily don't sort of give value. But I can guarantee you that if you comment on something, if you mention something, and it sparks something in the head of your colleague, your manager, whoever you're working with, and it gives them an idea, they will remember who sparked that idea in their head. They will remember you. So even though you think, you know, oh, this is stupid, I don't want to say anything, just have the courage to speak out. And use your strengths. So even if you have the silliest strengths, let's say that you're really good with Excels or you're really good with something, listen to what people are doing, what people are talking, and just offer to help. Say, you know, I love working with Excels, let me do that for you. I think that's the best way of just pushing for yourself to learn more things, not waiting for people to give you tasks, but just take them. And then if you don't do a good job, then someone will tell you how to do it better the next time. So that's how you learn. You can't learn unless you sometimes fail as well. So I think that's been my main things. What I've tried to do is sort of ask questions, try to help, and make sure that everything I do, I do my best. And I think, as you could see from the blog, it's not always up to you, but try to select managers that support you. I think that's a big thing. People that really have your best interest at heart can make a big difference in your career as well.
Okay, I think we received a very good amount of questions, and very good questions, and got good tips from Sanna as well. Any final words, Sanna?
If you're interested in opportunities or any additional questions, then just connect me in LinkedIn and let's have a chat. Or if you're working at Tietoevry, then just send me a message and we can have a chat. Thank you for having me here. It was my pleasure.
Many thanks, Sanna. Okay, now I think we can move on to the key takeaways. I believe most of you, or many, or all are familiar with the Mentimeter tool. So if you take your phones and go to menti.com and use the code which you can see from your screens 92672879, and please share 3 key takeaways from this morning's session with Sanna. What were the key takeaways that got stuck in your mind, or that actually inspired you, or whatever else comes to your mind? I will shortly share the screen with you so that we can see what kind of word cloud do we get from there. Okay, so please all go to menti.com, use the code which you can see on the screen 92672879, and share 3 key takeaways from today's session. Okay, we can see how the cloud is already forming. Soft skills, people, constant learning, future, humane. And actually, these were the things that you could hear from Sanna's session. The people aspect was actually in the center of everything, even though we were talking about cloud. Okay, we are getting a bit more. Curiosity, innovation, insightful. People make the change. Leadership. Ask questions, yeah. The things that Sanna also highlighted. Any other key takeaways? Please use your time. And don't forget, you can also, as Sanna said, you can also approach her after this as well through LinkedIn, or any one of us, in case you have anything in your mind or any questions. But yeah, I don't see any other takeaways being added to the cloud. But thank you all for sharing this, and thank you for being with us today, for participating in this session. Wishing you all, okay, we are getting some more, but yeah, you can still keep answering, and we will be sharing this later on externally as well. But thank you all for participating, and wishing you all a wonderful week. And once again, happy International Women's Day. Bye bye.